No,
Oh,
no.
where
Look
did
like.
it go?
Wait, how do I? Hi, I'm Nadia.
Hi, I'm Aaleia.
Hi, I'm Nameera, and this is Operation Tomatometer. So, welcome everyone to a very, very special episode of Operation Tomatometer.
As you can see, we're not in our usual recording location in the Clave right now. Since we're on break as we're filming this, we are coming to you from our Zoom screens in the comfort of our own homes for another tomatastic review, but with a little twist.
Instead of the typical format, today we have the Operation Tomatometer Oscars episode. In this review, we'll be discussing the Oscar nominations for the upcoming 2022 award ceremony on March 27th.
So let's get into each of the nominations and share some of our predictions. So let's start with cinematography, because I know that's something that we always love to talk about. The nominations were Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. So what do we think about that, since we only reviewed Dune as our first episode last year?
Well, having mentioned Dune, as you just did right now, we can just start off with that. And I remember that although I had a lot of upsets with it, I did like the cinematography, and I remember we all mentioned that. So I could see Dune as a strong contender for this Oscar. What do you guys think?
Personally, I think Dune is a strong contender for cinematography, but I feel like it might have been a little stronger in other aspects like score. I think honestly, I'm kind of like interested in West Side Story cinematography in this like nomination, because I feel like I've heard a lot of great things about how Spielberg directed it and how it just like looked visually on the screen. Like every scene of it just looked like very, very well done with like the mise en scène. So I think West Side Story.
Yeah,
Like when you're against Steven Spielberg, it's difficult to have Dune even contend with that. But
Yeah.
Dune's cinematography was really good. So I don't know. It's a toss-up for me.
I would say, of course, West Side Story, like we said, and then Dune, and then maybe The Power of the Dog.
Yeah, and we haven't seen the other ones. I think that's pretty obvious. So those are really the only three that we can talk about.
No, I think Nightmare Alley. I've seen that one. Not my favorite. I had a very like meh response to the entire movie. It was kind of a surprise to me that it was even nominated.
Really?
But yeah, I was just kind of like, all right. I don't think Nightmare Alley is a big contender for this one though.
So I guess we can move on to the next category, which will be visual effects.
Okay, so for visual effects, the nominees are Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home.
I've seen all those films except No Time to Die, sadly. When I first saw this list, immediately I wanted to go for Spider-Man. You know, I was like, Spider-Man all the way. But I do know that there are some like debates among Spider-Man fans regarding like three Spider-Man films and their CGI and their effects. And I know that some people don't particularly like Marvel's effects, so I'm not exactly sure if they'll win. I did, however, really like Dune's visual effects, and I really liked Free Guy, actually. Honestly, they're all very strong contenders, but I feel like Dune might win that one.
Yeah, Dune had really good visual effects, especially with the sand and everything, and it looked really realistic. Spider-Man No Way Home, I don't feel like it had as many effects or just like the intricacy of the effects as like Shang-Chi did, which I really like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and I think it really should win. And I know we had some things to say about Eternals, but Eternals also had really good visual effects, but it wasn't nominated.
Don't look at. Thank God it's not nominated. Sorry.
We're not going to talk about Eternals.
No, we're not gonna.
Okay, like but for me, I think it's also like a toss-up. Like I think Dune and Shang-Chi are like my two biggest contenders. Dune did really well with the sand and like the sandworm scenes. That was just incredible to like look at on the screen. And Shang-Chi also has some amazing effects. And also, I'm glad to see two Marvel movies being like represented here. So I think that ties up visual effects. We're gonna move on to our next category, which is film editing.
So in that category, we have Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, The Power of the Dog, and Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick Boom had really good editing. As we were watching like those musical sequences, the editing for everything was just really good. And that could just be because of the directing, which was really good as well. But the editing definitely added something really nice to the film. Don't Look Up actually had good editing as well, but to me, I think Tick Tick Boom had the best editing.
Yeah, absolutely. When we first just like went through the nominees, I immediately also went straight to Tick Tick Boom. Like when in our episode we referenced the constant ticking throughout the film, in the pivotal scenes, and then like you just mentioned with all the numbers, and also just the fact that the premise is like going back and forth between the workshop scene and like him retelling his story and then like the actual story coming to life. And so going back time wise, the whole thing just works seamlessly. So I would put also Tick Tick Boom as like the strongest contender for this.
Yeah, no, I 110% agree with you guys. I really want Tick Tick Boom to win, especially because it did get snubbed for, Best Picture.
Yeah.
But I think the film editing here was really great. Also, like for me, I would not give Dune film editing like this award because we all agree like the first half of the movie was incredibly slow, and I feel like if editing picked up there, then we might have not had that problem.
I'm getting flashbacks to the theater.
Mhm.
It was incredibly slow, and the pacing was terrible. We already went into this in the first episode. We don't need to go through it again, but I absolutely agree, Nameera. All right, so I think that settles film editing. And our next category is original score.
So for music original score, we have Don't Look Up, Dune, Encanto, Parallel Mothers, and The Power of the Dog.
Hans Zimmer. Like you're going up against Hans Zimmer. What do you think is going to happen there? But Dune didn't have like an amazing soundtrack. We talked about that in our first like 30-minute long episode, and it was really good and it fit the film very well. Don't Look Up, it wasn't that memorable except for that one song, which was really funny. I didn't see Parallel Mothers, and Power of the Dog did have a good soundtrack, but also not like so memorable. So I think Encanto has a really good chance of winning it just because of how lovely the soundtrack was. And for an animated film and for Disney, I think it's generally something that people can appreciate a little more, even though it is going up against Hans Zimmer.
Absolutely. Like you said, with Hans Zimmer, Dune, like we said in our first episode, that was one of the strongest points for the film. And I remember, even though I didn't like the film, I did like the score a lot. And then Encanto, like you just said, which was a big part in our Encanto episode. Go watch it. The music is amazing. Lin-Manuel Miranda did a really great job, like incorporating Colombian like styles and so on into the soundtrack. And then with just how it resonates with the audience, and its lyrics are so relatable, and it just tells a beautiful story. So I heard We Don't Talk About Bruno on the radio the other day. So that's just a feat in itself. So that just shows like the impact, and I think that just speaks a lot to how great it is.
Yeah, personally, I want Encanto to win best like music original score, but I feel like it's going to be Dune simply because it is Hans Zimmer, and also like I remember we talked about how he created like new instruments and whatnot to catch that very specific sound, which that was one of the strongest points of the movie. And I feel like Encanto, I can't remember if an animated movie has won an original score before. I don't know.
So getting more specific into the original song category, we have Be Alive from King Richard, Dos Oruguitas from Encanto, Down to Joy from Belfast, No Time to Die from No Time to Die, and Somehow You Do from 4 Good Days, which I have not seen. Interestingly, We Don't Talk About Bruno wasn't submitted to the Oscars because they didn't think that was going to get as popular as it did. So Disney actually thought that Dos Oruguitas, which was a really nice song, was going to do better and had a better chance of winning the Oscars. So that's why that one was submitted.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how Belfast was nominated here. And from what I remember of the song, wait, which song was it?
Down to Joy.
Down to Joy. I believe that's like at the beginning of the movie. It's a montage song, I'm pretty sure. I think that it was like a really upbeat song, which kind of like contrasts from some of the other nominations. But I do also want to bring up Encanto. Encanto's songs in general were just like amazing throughout.
No Time to Die was also really good. James Bond songs are usually really good, and they'll have that interesting vibe. So that, I think, has a chance of winning. I'm not sure about Dos Oruguitas because while it was really nice to hear, especially in that scene in Encanto, it wasn't as impactful, maybe, to the people, to the critics who are actually, deciding this.
Yeah, same. Talking about Encanto's song, Dos Oruguitas, that was a great song. I mean, the flashback, it was very emotive and emotional, but yeah, it didn't make as much of an impact as We Don't Talk About Bruno. And thinking back on past Oscars, not that like impact or like public appeal should be like what determines, but at the same time it does usually like mean a lot. Like with Let It Go, which won, that was like a global hit. So this you haven't heard so much about.
Moving on now, we're going to talk about costume design nominations. And for that category, we have Cruella, Serrano, I hope I'm saying that right, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. Off the bat, I just want to say that House of Gucci was not nominated, and I think that it definitely should have been nominated for costume design, especially just kind of like capturing that entire like vibe. I think it did a really well job in the film. But from our nominees, I definitely see Dune being like the strongest contender simply because it is a genre piece and there's a very like specific like eclectic vibe you have to get to do the movie justice. But I also think that Nightmare Alley actually had a very interesting costume design simply because it's set in a circus. So I think that Dune is my strongest contender, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nightmare Alley like swept it away, you know?
Cruella has a good shot as well.
I was gonna say Cruella. I agree that Dune could have a really good shot because, yeah, like you said, just considering like the design that has to go into, I mean, creating this atmosphere and this world building. But Cruella, I saw Cruella, and I mean, the whole basis is like her designs and everything. So there were a lot of like bold costumes, and you know, Cruella, she's eccentric, so the entire film was very colorful and vibrant.
West Side Story had costume design that was, you know, good for the time period that it's depicting, and it was fine. But Cruella did a really good job with that. Like, I wasn't expecting that from the film. I wasn't expecting it to be as focused on like fashion, and it was really elegant but not overly ostentatious. So that probably has a really good shot. Dune, it didn't seem like something that was gonna stick out. House of Gucci was nominated for makeup and hairstyling though. So Nameera, are you happy about that?
Yeah, happy about that. Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially because of like their hairstyling in that movie was kind of crazy. So appreciate that.
And just saying, I just see the list right now, and one of the nominees for Cruella is named Nadia. So maybe Omen, maybe Nadia will win. Let's go.
It's a sign. But moving on to actor in a leading role, we have Javier Bardem from Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch from The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield from Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith from King Richard, and Denzel Washington from The Tragedy of Macbeth. So what do you guys think?
I hope Andrew Garfield wins. I really, really do. Because I just feel like he deserves it.
Yeah,
depicting
same.
Jonathan Larson so authentically. But I do also like want to bring up like Denzel Washington and The Tragedy of Macbeth. I've heard very, very good things about his performance there.
I have to agree with you about Andrew Garfield. I mean, he learned how to sing for his role. We have to, the effort that he put in, and again, if you look at our episode, we talked about this. He was so good. He put 120% into that role. But I also have to mention Will Smith in King Richard. I didn't see the whole film, but I saw clips, and I think this is one of his best performances. Very authentic, and just his chemistry with the actresses that play Serena and Venus Williams. They all were amazing. So I feel like he might be up there, but again, who knows?
I agree with you guys. All the nominees were really, really good. But if someone does stick out, it has to be Andrew Garfield because it was just so real. And I mean, we know Andrew Garfield is a wonderful actor from Spider-Man, but Tick, Tick, Boom really showed everything that he could bring to a film that's about a musical. Will Smith was really good. Denzel Washington was really good. Benedict Cumberbatch, you're going up against Benedict Cumberbatch. There's going to be some issues there, but I think Andrew Garfield should win. Absolutely. So let's move on to leading actress.
Okay, in this we have Jessica Chastain, Olivia Colman, Penelope Cruz, Nicole Kidman, and Kristen Stewart. And yeah, so all such a great category full of amazing women. And I have to say immediately, one that sticks out to me is Olivia Colman. And we know she's won an Oscar in the past. She's an amazing actress, so I think she's definitely going to be a strong contender for this category. And I also have to say Kristen Stewart also is a strong contender. I mean, they all are, but Kristen Stewart in Spencer, I didn't see the whole film, but I saw part of it, putting on an accent and portraying Diana Spencer. I think she did a really great job. So I think that Kristen Stewart would be up there. But again, Olivia Colman, she's amazing.
Kristen Stewart isn't exactly known for being like a really amazing actress. Like some of her performances people make fun of a lot. But I think that's maybe when she was younger. Now I see a lot more depth in her performance, so I think she's definitely a really strong contender for that.
I do think that like it's kind of interesting how Cruella, Emma Stone is not here for Cruella, even though that was like an entire, like she was Cruella.
I have to say, another snub alert, but I was thinking of Alicia Vikander in Blue Bayou, which came out last year. It was a really great film, and she was amazing in it. And it was a very raw performance, so I was really like impressed by her. And I know, again, she's won in the past, so it's not a surprise really. But I was surprised that she wasn't nominated for her performance.
So moving on to animated feature film, we're approaching the end. We have Encanto, we have Flea, which I have not seen. We have Luca, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. And immediately Encanto sticks out to me as being a very possible winner.
I mean, absolutely. All the films are great, but yeah, Encanto just sticks out. It had a very deep impact with the familial ties that and like the relatability as we expressed in our episode, and just an overall amazing film in terms of like the colors, vibrancy, the soundtrack, and then just the story. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's a very strong film.
I think for me, Disney's definitely taking the cake with either Encanto or Luca. I actually really enjoyed Luca and how it brought in, a kind of ambiguous story. You have to like really look into it. And I think that like both contenders had really great themes overall, like with the familial ties and also like integrating like different cultures or different like love storylines. I feel like both films did a really great job.
I don't know exactly why each of these was nominated. Luca, it might have been maybe trying to be more inclusive because people were saying that that's what was going on with Luca. Personally, I found it really nice that it was just showing a friendship between two young boys, because that's not really something that Disney represents very often. It's usually like girls or something else. So I just like seeing that very platonic friendship and very emotional. But I think Encanto was even better. The Mitchells versus the Machines, I heard a lot of great things about it. And when I watched it, I was a little underwhelmed. Did you guys see it?
I really wanted to see it. My family did. I didn't. But one day I will, because, again, I also heard of how great it was.
So, yeah, moving on to Best Picture. There's a lot going on here. We have Belfast. We have Coda. Don't Look Up. Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Oof.
That's a mouthful. I mean, this is the first time we had, well, I don't know if it's the first time, but 10 is a lot. 10 is a lot of nominees. Going with my strongest contenders, I mean, obviously, Dune is going to be up there. Sorry. No negative connotations, even though I didn't like it as much. But, objectively, it looked very visually beautiful. Let me stop before I go into more slander. No, I was kidding. I'm just joking. I feel like another strong contender, though, I don't know why. I think Belfast is up there. I think one of the things that really stuck out to me the most was the cinematography, and also just like the fact that nearly almost all of it is in black and white, which I really appreciate. I think it's cool when we get like a black and white film.
Coda was really, really good, and like the emotion in it, and it was also like some fun to watch. So I can see that being Best Picture. But Don't Look Up, whatever people say about it, was just really well done and really well written. I haven't seen Drive My Car. Dune, I don't think that's going to win. I think that it just didn't get enough love from critics. And Power of the Dog was very artsy, so that has a good chance. Yeah. I think we've been seeing a trend with Netflix films being nominated, so there's also a really good chance that something from Netflix is going to win.
Yeah, speaking on that, I think it's just very interesting that Coda, an Apple TV Plus film, was nominated. I think that surprised me. But yeah, I just had to say that.
I think what's surprising is that Tick Tick Boom wasn't nominated. I'm kind of really mad about that. Yes. I was like, come on. Like, there's just so much going on there. I think it should have been nominated at least,
Yeah.
but I don't know. For my biggest contender in this category, I've heard a lot of great things about Drive My Car, but that 3 hour runtime is kind of insane, and that's the reason why I haven't seen it myself, because I didn't have time. But I think it's between Belfast, Dune, that type of vibe.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nameera. I think Belfast, Dune. I'm actually I'm not sure because Steven Spielberg, King, but I feel like the reception after West Side Story, like there was so much anticipation for the film, and then it came out and I didn't hear much about it. But
Mhm.
maybe I'm just like not on the right side of the internet. Did you guys like have any other like reactions towards the film?
It didn't really deliver. It didn't really add too much to the previous film. And people were mad that like parts of it were in Spanish with no subtitles. And I don't really know what was up with that. There was just too much bad stuff coming from critics. So I don't think it's going to win. If it does, it'll be a nice surprise.
Yeah, no, something that would be crazy if Licorice Pizza wins. I
Please.
wanted to watch this movie so bad. I heard Licorice Pizza was really well received and it had a lot going on, especially for a smaller production as it was, right?
Yeah.
It was a smaller production. And I really want to go see it. And I don't think it's gonna
Same.
win, but I
I
really like wanted to win something.
So, based on all of the nominees that we've been through, what do you guys think the direction is that the Oscars is going in? Do you think that they're trying to like cater more to the public now that there was the whole Oscars so white scandal? Or do you think maybe it's getting better in its nominations, or is it turning more towards streaming services? What do you guys think?
Speaking on the scandal you just mentioned, I think it's still failing to like be inclusive, and I don't know the exact number, but there's only 2 black actors that are nominated, and just in general, it's still very white dominated, which is sad to see. So I know that people were expressing their disappointment with that this year upon seeing the nominations. So I think that's the direction the Oscars are going, and they still have a lot of work to do to recognize the black talent and and other people of color as well. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that I've like discussed with a lot of other people who are very like film center, like cinephiles and whatnot. Like the Oscar is losing relevance in today's modern age, and people aren't sitting down the way they used to like go watch it and like stream it together, whatever. And it's like it's kind of sad that that's happening, but I also think that it's okay because like it's really arbitrary, like the way that they like critique movies and whatnot.
yeah.
And a lot of movies that may be more deserving aren't represented in these Academy Awards.
I agree. I think with the encroachment of streaming services onto the cinema, we have people realizing more and more their own power and making their own choices about what to watch and what was a good film and what wasn't, because they realize that it's all subjective and that you can sit down at home and you can watch whatever you want on Netflix and you don't have to go to the movies, and you're not getting that same experience that people did like 50 years ago, going to the cinema and getting the movie going experience, talking about the actors and stuff. It's not the same sort of community surrounding that. So I agree with Nameera that it is losing relevance, and people aren't just talking about it as much as they used to.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we put out all our commentary about the nominations for the Oscars, and that's a wrap on this week's episode. We'll likely have a follow-up segment after the ceremony that will be held in a few weeks, but for now, make sure to rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and check out the Classics Instagram and TikTok page at THHS Classic to see our bloopers, behind the scenes, and other cool projects we're working on. With that said, see you guys next week. Bye!
Hi, everyone!